Welcome everybody to the Produce Common Sense podcast. I always say that I have the best guest on the podcast with me, but yeah, not very often, if ever. In fact, I know never up to this point have I had a friend of 20 years sitting next to me, Matt Maxwell. Our history goes back to our college days. We met as missionaries in Los Angeles, California. These two gringos, hablamos español, right?
Lo hablamos muy bien. Así es. Mm-hmm.
And we met back then and have shared parts of our lives throughout that entire time. And Matt's going to tell you about himself, but I'm glad to have him here because he is a leadership coach. He's an author. He's an actor. What else?
I was a lawyer.
Yeah, and was a lawyer.
I guess
you're never not a lawyer, even if you want to just avow that.
Law anymore.
He's been a lot of everything, and he has always been brilliant. And I thought it would be interesting to go through one of my BHAGs. So Collins, in his one of his books, I believe it is From Good to Great, talks about the need that we have to create these BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals that we're working towards and drive us in what we do on a daily basis. And one of those BHAGs for me, if you guys haven't figured this out watching me online or on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn, is that I want to bridge the gap between the average consumer, city dweller, and the farmer, so that you understand as a consumer what we do and why we do it, and you understand that we're doing what we do because we love it. We're passionate about it. We're thinking generationally for years and years into the future, and that we want you to understand that. And we're trying to do the right things. Although we don't always do things exactly right, we're striving to do that. So with Matt here, with that frame, okay,
yes,
I want to bridge the gap on a national level between the farmer and the consumer. Uh-huh. So my first question for you is, what do you think is the biggest gap to bridge between the regular person in the city and a farmer like myself?
Okay. Yeah. Well, because I'm such a city dweller, I don't even know right? Like, I'm so outside of the world. Food to me, like, I will speak for everybody that is like me, like, has basically always lived in city, nowhere near farms, right? It's like, food comes from the grocery store, right?
Right. Oh yeah. That's where it comes from.
And you just expect that you'll go there and there'll be food and that there should be food, and completely unaware of any like natural or other things that might be of the supply chain, right? Like there should just be food there and it should be cheap, right? And if it's not, like, there's something clearly wrong. That's kind of like my view of food, basically.
Right.
And I know that, like, somewhere in my mind, like, the farms are I guess they're...
Well, you know, a farmer.
There are farms, right?
Right?
I know someone who says he's a farmer.
Okay, all right.
You know, and I haven't been to the farm, so I guess farms are real, but it's still a little bit like there are these mystical places that I'm not even really sure if they're real, you know? That's kind of my view of it.
So how do we, as farmers, or how do I as an individual, what do you think is the easiest, most straightforward step to take to make food something that comes from a real farm instead of a grocery store?
Well,
is that a question I can ask and that you can answer?
I think so, but I guess the real question I have for you is, like, what is it that you would really like me to know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I spoke to that in the intro a little bit. I mean, we love what we do. We really try and do it right. We get extremely frustrated with the perception so often that we're, polluting the soil. We're dousing your food with chemicals. We have this massive carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Right? Yet at the same time, you're happy to go to the grocery store and grab that food and eat it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But don't you guys have it? No, aren't all those things true? I don't understand. I mean, don't you have a big, huge carbon footprint? I mean, aren't you guys just dousing? There's just all kinds of, like, I don't understand. Those are all true things.
No, they're not. That's exactly. Okay. All right. So we can see the problem right now.
Well, okay, but I get where you're coming from. And what I would say is like, okay, well, I guess I don't really know. I hope it's okay. And I'm like, well, these carrots cost $5 if they have the word organic on them, and these cost like $3. And where I'm at right now, I'm like, shouldn't I just get the cheaper carrots? Is it really that big of a difference? And then of course there's some people that are like, no, there's stuff that's messing up your biome,
your guts, all kinds of messed up.
And I don't know what to say about any of that. But I would say, it sounds to me like what you really want is that there are policy implications of this kind of like average Joe me view, right? There's ways you end up getting affected in your industry.
Right.
Because there's some kind
you nailed it.
This weird, vague consensus from people like me who know nothing.
that you shouldn't use any chemicals for anything, and you create policy behind it because your political inclination and the setting in which you live creates this willingness and necessity in your mind to create policy. Okay, but so going to your background as a leadership coach.
Okay, sure.
If I come to you, because you can see how I'm
stepping out of like ignorant city dweller.
Yes, stop being an ignorant city dweller.
Still in that.
Okay,
I'm a coach.
You pretend not to be that.
Okay.
Now, okay. As a leadership coach, you can see where the disconnect is here between what I'm trying to convey or want to communicate to my audience, but how difficult it is to understand what that audience needs. So how do I stand up and stand out and be a leader in a place when I don't even know or understand where to start?
Well,
come on, coach.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the first thing I would say is that the way you're describing what you're really going for still sounds a little vague to me.
Okay.
Right. So it's like, what is your objective? Okay, I want people to, let's start there. I want who?
I want the average consumer going to the grocery store, the average mom buying food for her kids, to know that I care what her kids eat just as much as I care what my kids eat.
So, that I care so that she'll get what? Comfort with buying them?
I think that she will trust her food and know that it's safe for her to eat. And when I say trust her food, I mean trust it to be safe to eat, but I also mean trust the people who are growing the food that she's going to consume.
Okay, so I want average mom somewhere in America to be able to see this bag of onions and go, I know that this is safe for my family.
Right.
And I can feel good about buying it and eating it.
Yes.
Okay. How would you know that you've accomplished that goal? Okay, so there's like what my objective is, right? If we like zoom out a little bit. Okay, so I'm looking at like, what is this future that excites me? Does it excite you to think of someone going to the store and like feeling that confidence?
Yes, but not as much as like going to the grocery store myself and seeing those onions there and knowing they came from our farm. But I digress.
There's other things that could be exciting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if I were going to see Shakira live in concert, that would be more exciting than knowing my onions are healthy. But we could go on all day about that.
Yes,
okay.
right.
Well, actually, so there's your objective. I think there's actually something else that you want that represents.
Okay. All right.
Just look.
Okay.
Right. So what is it that if the average, American shopper really felt like they felt trust in their onions or the produce they're buying at, Albertsons, or where do they buy it? Whatever, grocery store.
Yeah.
They feel trust in that. There's something that would provide you, I imagine, or make possible for you that is really what you're wanting.
So you're saying that confidence, that trust in the produce is not what I'm really looking for. That's like
a means to an end. That there's something that would create for you, for your business, for the industry, right? There's something that would make possible for Americans, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Like, what's the want behind the want?
Yeah. I guess the want behind the want is to it's a frustration. It's a fear. I talk about this all the time. My audience will know this, but I say that we have right now, as things are progressing and as they stand, we have 10 years left in agriculture to be producers or growers, farmers of produce, because of the competition that we have from foreign countries and their inexpensive labor, the lack of concern for carbon emissions, their labor practices. So I guess I want the mom at the grocery store to trust the food and to trust me and to buy that produce and to keep the American farmer in business. I mean, I guess the big picture is that. Like, I really am fearful that we're out of business in 10 years.
Gotcha. So there's like very, very wide trends happening, and your fear is if it continues as it's been, what's predictable is that American farms will be gone.
Right. American farms that grow produce will be gone.
Gotcha. Okay. And so that sounds a little bit more urgent.
Yeah.
That's not just like, hey, I think it would be nice if this is like American produce farming is at stake in this message.
Right.
Okay, cool. So what's interesting, I'll just share what I noticed as you were sharing that, is that felt compelling to me.
As a coach or as a consumer?
Well, just as a human.
Okay.
Like, hearing that felt different to me than like, hey, I want you to know, like, it's really okay to eat these onions, right? It's a different kind of urgency to me for you to share from, like, I want you guys to know this because.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm just saying as a person that seemed to have a different impact, not just so that you'll be able to eat these and buy these and we can make an extra buck, but because if people don't trust in American produce, right, or in some level trust in the produce they're getting, that has massive implications for our food security, right? There's like all kinds, and that starts to be enrolling to me.
Okay. Do you see, because I always wonder if the consumer really, well, what we run into all the time is what we hear that the consumer wants. Like if we do a survey and we say, hey, do you care about, let's use organic's a really, really good example. I'll use organic. Do you prefer organic over conventionally grown vegetables? In most cases, the people will say organic, but when they go to the grocery store and you follow their purchasing practices,
right,
there's a disconnect. They don't care
like
enough to pay
more. Right?
Exactly.
That's how I am most of the time.
And that's what I feel like this kind of the same problem, right? I can tell you, and you might say that you care, that I'm in business in 10 years and that we have food security in the United States, but ultimately we can't compete on a dollar for dollar basis with these imports that are coming in anymore.
Yes. And so the way that you see to avoid that future, to create something different, is having people get how good their food is.
Right.
They're getting from here.
Right. Have some willingness to pay somewhat more and realize that you get what you pay for. When you buy what
so that's the message, is not just onions are safe, it's you're actually getting a better produce if you buy American.
Yeah, you get what you like. The American voter has voted for all of these things that we've already talked about. I mean, they want lower carbon emissions, they want electric vehicles by 2030, they want less pesticides, they want safe water, they want great working conditions for workers, great housing conditions, they want all of that inspected, some of the safest food in the world. They want all of those things. But
if this is 50 cents cheaper, I'll just buy that.
Yes. And I'm required now, because you voted, because you want this so much, I'm required to do all those things. And I'll do them, happily do them. But not if you don't buy them from me, because how do I exist?
Yeah, got it.
That's why it's so urgent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's like a BHAG. Like, it's like, I need the consumer. I guess you're helping me understand why I need the consumer to understand that we want to give them good food and we want them to be confident in the farmers that they're working with, but also want them to be conscious of the fact that we're giving them what they're asking for. We just need them to pay for it.
Right.
Because we're not making more.
Or be in, I imagine, pay for it and or be in favor of policy that makes it easier for you to provide what you provide.
Exactly.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, cool. From a coach perspective, what I would say is like, okay, you're starting to get a vision, right? So we're clarifying this vision. The average person feels so strongly about the like preferability of American produce that they're willing to pay more for it. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of the future that you're really going for, in a way that then ensures security of American produce farms.
Yes.
Or long-term viability.
Right.
Maybe. Okay. So I'm starting to, this is the thing I'm really going for. That they'll be willing to pay some amount more or pay a little bit of a premium for the quality of what we can produce in America versus other countries, and or support policies that are pro-American farming. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how would you know if you've accomplished that goal?
That's a really good question. So it's a reasonable question. I mean, part of it would be I measure some of my success on the type of comments and commentary that I get on social channels and interactions with people who don't know much about farming. Mm-hmm. If you were able to, perceive a change in mentality, mm-hmm. certainly a change in policy where we had, I'm all about free trade, but I need fair trade combined with the free trade, mm-hmm. like some sort of policy that came into place. Like if there was political policy change that took into account the fact that we do and have reduced our carbon footprint versus these other countries, then I would feel like, there's some momentum in some direction that's tangible.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. Cool. So what are you sensing as you speak that out loud? Noticing anything as you're speaking this out?
So that I guess I need some KPIs. I got to have some way to measure what I'm suggesting. It's
like if you think about, if you sometimes I like to think about setting our goals or kind of these future oriented projects. I'll think about them as a game. It's like a game I'm playing. What are you up to in life? Well, here are the games I'm playing. And I don't mean game like frivolous. I mean, when we talk about goals, sometimes it just starts to feel real heavy and like something that somebody told us to do and we should do. But it's like, this is the game I'm playing. There's a future that you imagine.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That is not what's currently predictable.
Right.
And what you're up to in your life is creating that future. Right.
Right.
And so we're fleshing that out a little bit, or at least some pieces of that. Right.
Right.
And it's the game you're playing. Right. It's what you're up to in life. Okay. Now, if somebody's like, I want to win. I want to win at this sports game. Right? You're like, cool. And what do you? It's like to play a game, you have to know what winning it means.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So fair. It's like, it's pretty simple in most of our sports. Most sports, it's like by the end of the game, I want to have scored more points than the other team.
Right.
That's winning.
Right.
And now with that clear objective, you can actually play. You can create strategy, right? But you have a really clear, we've won the game. Mm-hmm. There's some games that are just more qualitative in nature. I really want to be really happy in my life. It's kind of hard to fix a measure to that, right? It's kind of but I actually think that the game you're up to, which is the game of changing perspectives, the game of changing people's beliefs and opinions, right?
Right. That's
a little bit loosey-goosey, but there's actually some pretty measurable stuff behind that.
Right.
What are you getting from this?
No, exactly. No, I mean, if you define the goals, I guess the end results. I mean, you saying, okay, so how will you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Policy change, commentary or comments on social media feeds, interactions with people, then you know what you're trying to get to at the end.
Yes.
I mean, because sometimes I just do what I do and then I see what the change is, right? Instead of thinking of the change from the beginning and then interacting accordingly to create that change.
Yes.
So, I mean, that does make sense. Yeah. That does make sense. And I guess then you also have to change what your, not your talking points, but your approach. I mean, if I'm saying I want policy changes in 10 years, then I probably should be more involved in organizations that have a political impact or work with someone who has, the lobbyists in place and try and speak with those people that have the influence or somehow create the influence that's ultimately going to mean change can actually occur.
Yeah, right. Exactly. In a way that's actually measurable.
Right.
It's like, yes, actually, that's exactly what I was going for.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of like you got this future and you've got like, I'm a city dweller. Like I don't really shoot anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But let's say that you got like a bow and arrow, right? And
because it's way easier to shoot things with a bow and arrow.
Well, I don't know. I say archery. I'm like Robin Hood or whatever, right? And Robin Hood, it's like, okay, I want to kind of shoot the arrow over that way. Well, yeah, kind of shooting over that way, but it's like, have you actually hit what you wanted to hit, right? This is like, let me actually get really clear about like where the center of the target is. And I may not win that game,
right?
But at least then I have a very clear thing that I'm going for. Okay, so maybe one takeaway from this is like developing that kind of clarity as I shift perspectives. Like, what am I actually trying to shift them for? And how would we know that? How can I measure it? What are some measurables where I can actually see that I'm winning the game or not? Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is like how to win that game. Right? As I get more clarity, and at least it looks like at least some of the game you're playing is a shift in people's perspectives.
Right.
So, how do you change someone's perspective?
I found, like, for me, for sure, and one of the things that I hear consistently is, and I don't try and be anything different, but I hear like, I appreciate how genuine you are in the conversation that you're willing to have online.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
So I definitely that, like, I'm pretty vulnerable. People that see and listen to my comment or my content will see, like, I'll talk about the good, I'll talk about the bad, I'll show the pretty fields, I'll show the bad, the difficult or ugly looking fields. I will, talk about a good day or a bad day. I'm pretty open about numbers most of the time too. Mm-hmm. And I think so being genuine and transparent to the maximum extent that you possibly can also helps, because so many people I'm not here to, and people run into it because it depends on where you consume content and how you've met me and how well you know me. But those that have like the wider, larger perspective see that I, don't try and show a clean pickup every time, or like I just fly around in airplanes. Like I'm a high roller, like, or something, right? It's like real, like some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Like, this is a voice I can trust.
Yeah.
Because you are being authentic.
Yeah. Cause I mean, if I'm wrong, I like to call myself, I like to admit that I'm wrong. If I see something that I disagree with someone else talking about, even though it might be somewhat controversial, I like to talk about it.
We're both wearing green.
Yeah. We're good taste.
We did not plan this, in advance, just so everybody knows. They're like different things too. It's kind of weird. Okay. So authenticity, trust. Yes. And like, if I'm going to change someone's mind about something, they need to know why it's important for their mind to be changed.
Okay, so that goes back to the fact that we need to have food. Are we going there? Like why they need to understand it from a
maybe.
Okay.
What I'm pointing to, is it like, okay, so I'm just coming from city dweller. This is not coming from coach. This is from me being like the person who you're trying to influence how they're thinking about food. Right?
It could be both.
It could be. It is a little both. Okay. I'm kind of like, okay, cool. But it's like, why should I care? Oh yeah, I see all that, right? Oh, okay, yeah, sure, food's a little safer or whatever. But I've got, it's not that I don't care. It's not that it's like, there's just 10,000 things that seem to be important.
Right.
Right.
I can understand
voices,
that.
Clamoring, social media and friends and, and so part of the message is like, okay, this is a voice I can trust, but
why does it matter that I trust them?
Yeah, like why do I, Matt, who picks up his groceries and lives a pretty good life, and I care about the environment. I care about the sustainability of the earth. I care about humans having good, healthy lives. I'm kind of like a person that has probably pretty common interests with a lot of other people.
Right.
What is it that would get me to be like, oh, that matters.
I guess one of the connections that I feel I have with regular folks, city dwellers, to keep using that term, is a meal. Like literally, I mean, to some extent, a part of our operation, our family, our food is at that table with that family at every meal. Once or twice, 3 times a day, whatever it is. Not with every family in the country, but with millions and millions and millions of different families in the course of a year. But that's still not, I mean, it shows my interest and like that I have that connection, but it's not an answer to your question. I mean, why does it matter? How can I convince you that it matters? I mean, I guess the only other thing would be, I mean, you do have to eat. Like what we're providing is essential to your existence. So I do think in one way or another, my existence is connected to your existence. My survivability in the long term is connected to your survivability. Sure. So can we start growing all of our vegetables in Mexico and Central and South America and importing them all? Yes, we can. Is there a point in time, which is hard to care about, but is there a point in time in the future, 10, 20, 50, 25 years, 30 years, 5 decades from now, when something happens and we have no plan B? So then I need you to care, because if you don't care about me, I'm gone to care about you. And
yeah, cool. So one way this could seem important to me is if it's like here, like it's like that's the maybe predictable future. If some things don't change, if people don't take different, like there's a way in which that future seems kind of predictable. Like it's going to be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. The cost differences are going to grow to the point that you can't sell your produce. Right. And American farming, produce farming's not viable anymore. Right. Okay. So that's one way to get people to go, oh, that doesn't seem good. Right. And then if something happens with borders or whatever, like we want to know that we could get food that's here. Right. I think. But it's so far out in the future, I'm not sure that it's hard for us to think about anything. Like if you go to the grocery store today and there's not food there, it's going to bother you. Right, exactly. Right away, you'd be like, change. Yeah, change, right? Yeah. But if you go to the grocery store for the next 10 years and there's food there every time, on year 11, you're not going to care even if it's not there. It's too late. And will it be too late? I mean, this kind of seems like... I don't want to be like the climate change thing. Like, it's like... Because I mean, just like climate change, I feel like there's... We have to call the urgency. If we're not urgent about it, then... it's the same argument. It's really very, very similar. It's like if we don't make changes now, down the road, we're going to be in trouble and it'll be too late to change. Like how long are we going to say, it's okay, we're getting better, it's not going to, climate change is not going to affect us that bad, or then, it's not me who needs to change. The person 3, 4, 5, 10 years behind me, they're the ones that need to change. Right? I'm too old. I'm too set in my ways. I like my gas guzzling pickup truck out there. I don't want to change my ways. Okay. And it's kind of the same thing. So there's that urgency. You got Greta out there screaming on the extreme, but she gets people to listen to her because she's literally screaming and swearing at people. Right. Yeah. So yes. So that's one way. Okay. And we can see that if we look at like all kinds of things that have changed culturally, right? Some of it can come from, look where we're headed, wake up, this is bad, it's bad, it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad, 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 bad. Right, okay. Right? And that's one way that sometimes people are like, oh, what, it's going to be bad? It is going to be bad. Change. Okay, that's one way to maybe enact change and maybe useful. And another place you could come from. Okay. Is, right, so that's like, we don't want that version of the future, and that can enroll people. People be like, oh yeah, I don't want that. No, thank you. And there's a vision, right? There's another place to come from, right? I think of this as enrolling people as like enrollment. It's like there's a future possibility that seems awesome that would compel people towards it. They'd be like, yes, I want that. That looks great, So I'm like, Shay, after we're done with this podcast, okay, what I want to do is go to this restaurant where there's like the best steak you've ever had, right? And you're gonna eat this delicious meal, and there's like gonna be a sunset, and we're gonna have a little glass of 7-Up, and it's going to be, we're going to laugh and joke, and then there's going to be a mariachi band, and, and you're just like,
whoa,
I want that.
Okay.
Maybe you don't want that, right? But like, I'm speaking of a possible future that then you would want to work towards. It's like the carrot instead of the stick, right? And I think of Martin Luther King this way. Like, sometimes he enrolled people through like, look, some of this crap isn't working. We've got to change it. But like the I Have a Dream speech to me is still incredibly enrolling because he speaks out a future that I am interested in, right?
Right.
When he speaks that vision, I'm like, oh, that's worth taking action towards. I'm enrolled in that possible future. Like, oh, that's worth going for. That's worth changing for. That's a beautiful vision of the future. And so, well, let me just pause there. What do you see there?
No. I get that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. I mean, I think that's harder than just sharing your truth and telling someone about how we're doing the right thing and even why we're doing the right thing. Because now I've got to, yeah, it's a way more complicated portrait than
maybe, or, I mean, here's what I think. This is what I think. I'm just going to give it to you. As a coach, by the way, I would not normally just be like, here's what I think, but I'm going to tell you what I think. Which is, okay, if you're trying to speak to me, right, what the message you'd probably share is something like, Matt, you eat dinner a lot, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much every day.
Every day,
right?
Close to.
And I imagine that what you want is to know that when you sit down and eat that food, it's good for you, it's environmentally conscious. The people who helped grow it are being treated well, right? I imagine that you're going to enjoy your meals more knowing that all those things are in place, right?
Right.
Yeah. I would like to. I would like to sit down. I don't know where I don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
I just buy food, and I really don't know how those workers are being treated or what the environmental impacts are or whatever, right? And there's a way in which you can paint a picture for me of like, imagine how great it would be to know that every night when you sit down to eat, right, you're buying the food that's the best it can be, the best quality for your health, where people are striving to do the best they can by the environment, take care of their workers. Like, everything that's gone into that food arriving on your table is that coming from there, And that is what American produce is. We're doing the best we can, the best practices in the world that are known, right? There's still ways we can learn and grow better, but
there's still things we're doing wrong, but we're doing everything we know to be right.
We're working
right now
in the right direction, and we're certainly ahead of a lot of other countries' agricultural practices,
right?
Or maybe every country's, right? Like, the way that you can sit down to your meal, feeling at like peace with what you're eating, is buying American produce. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay, that sounds nice. Yeah, I would like to sit down, but then it's real for me. It's like, then I get to sit down. There's a vision that I'm like, okay, yeah. Well, if I have to pay an extra $quarter for American onions or whatever at the store, I'm like, yeah, that seems fine. I'd rather do that.
Right. I mean, it would be similar to, I look at Starbucks, right? And the willingness of so many people, or you can go use the grocery store and look at Whole Foods and the difference in what people will pay. I guess I will, in full disclosure, like places, there's a lot of places like that do a better job in their marketing than they do in actual implementation. And I want to do a good job of
actually showing them,
actually
for real
doing.
Not just saying that, not just messaging it.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to avoid.
That's the kind of work you're up to, right? But it's the vision I have to get first. And why does this even matter to me?
Yeah,
why
and people have done it.
When you're showing me this crazy thing we do with the thing, and here's how we do these things, and you have the awesome videos, and like, there's all this educational content at some level, right? Speaking to what I want to know, I don't know. And then different people are going to be different. Part of this is going to be just what would be a compelling vision for you with food? What matters to you all, and finding that out, and then speaking to how this is that. So some of that, maybe it's both the crazy, scary future that this could be.
Right.
And here's the rich future that could be as well.
Well, I think if it's just the rich future, you're less likely to change the policy. But with your vision thing, you're more likely to change the culture. And ultimately the culture changes the policy. So, and
right? It's just connecting the dots for people. If that's the future you want, right, there are some things that are going to keep that from happening. Policy things, right? There's these big picture pieces If that's the future that sounds good to you, here's some things you can do.
Okay.
Watch for this label. Call up this person. Send an email here. Sign up for this, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Simple things like asking for American produce in the grocery store when it's available.
Perfect.
I mean, little programs like that that would
and
allow
then,
people to be involved in the process.
Your changing of minds with like measurable action, right? Like little things that then I'm doing. And then that's the kind of thing you can measure. And be like, okay, our message is actually making a difference.
Yeah. People are asking for U.S. grown produce in the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Well, Matt, thank you for being on. Thanks, guys, for being on, and I'll catch you on the next one. Like, subscribe, follow along, and the comments and reviews are like critically important. If you'll do that favor for me, I would really appreciate it. See you later.